Okay, we're just gonna put that on pause. We're gonna come back to you, like down there. I'm still, seriously, we're gonna do this again. Bear with me. Technology's got its own little personality tonight. And seriously, I'm right here. Hello. Welcome to my channel. My name is Lana Labonte. I'm here to uplift, inspire, support. Wait, let's start that all over again. My name is Lana Labonte. I am here to support, uplift, inspire, and hopefully that empowers you to be the best version of you you're meant to be. I got like a whiteboard over here. Apparently I needed to bring it a little closer to me so you don't see all this stuff around me. I don't know. I'm playing with Zoom and Zoom. Trying to get all my stuff all organized here. Like, I got you hanging from a shelf. Alrighty. So if you are tuning in right now, bear with me a second because I want to put something up here. I actually have yet to figure out. That was weird. That's not what I wanted. Do changes. Okay. Welcome to Venus retrograde. It's actually Mercury retrograde shadow. It's Saturday, Saturn's day, which is the day of Saturn is the teacher. They say not to wear rings around your middle finger because that's the middle. That's Saturn. You don't need any more lessons. That's what rings are. All right, I just had. There we go. Okay, now we got it. I'm happy. I'm a happy camper. So I will go over here because it doesn't look like anybody's on here yet. Forgive me. Just navigating the technology again. I kind of need an assistant over here. Just saying. My background's IT, and sometimes I just don't want to be bothered. They say house cleaners have the messiest houses. You know, there's this interesting dynamic around what your profession is. You don't necessarily want to do it for yourself. Actually, I'm really good with my technology, and I love my devices, and I love all my stuff. But I got you in the background over here. I got you on my computer, so I can see you there. And I've got some other things I want to share. So essentially, oops, I just do weird stuff. Okay, let's try that again. This is an interesting time. The things I want to discuss. Let's all take a deep breath together. In through the nose. Expanding the body. Feel your energy expanding beyond you, around you. And then on the exhale, feel yourself drawing in and pressing out all the air, because that's an opportunity to, on the contraction, to also reclaim. The expansion is the inhale. To be felt, to be seen, to be heard, the 5 senses and our needs as humans. And then the exhale, bring it back all in. Just contract it all in, feeling your power to breathe it all out. And then inhaling like the wings of a butterfly, or even like a buzzing bee, happy as can be. And then on the exhale, bring all that power and imagine bright yellow light. Pull that all into you. And then just release. Keep your eyes closed if you're following along. And just breathe naturally. And that's just a short little 3 breaths to bring you back into your center, to call in your power, to be present to your essence, your being, your all. In these times that are very new. And I've heard a few people talking about this. Hi, Shakti. And I'm grateful because I was having this conversation with a couple of people about the collective consciousness. I've got tons of stuff dropping in like streams. Tonight I felt like I need to, the sea was calling me. So I went to the beach today. And then I came back and I washed my hair, got clean, just for you. The collective consciousness, we're all a part of it. We're divinely orchestrating, participating, receiving, and giving. It literally is a stream. And that's how I imagine it. It's an energetic stream of thoughts, of imagination, creation. Sometimes we're participating in and adding our thoughts, and other times we're receiving downloads, channels, others' thoughts. And you really start to tap in when you are in tune, tuned into your frequency, your vibration, your own song, because what everybody thinks is the mystery of life, the seeking, is really my story. Mystery, my story. Mystery, mystery, my story. Greatest story ever told is my story. And why? Because only I know, because that's all I know, is my story. I can't tell anybody else's story. But isn't it interesting? Because you'll hear someone's story and you'll relate to it. You'll compare yourself. You ever listen to someone and go, wow, it was like listening to my own story. We're all participating in each other's story. We all have our variations and versions of our story. And interestingly enough, memories are imprints of our life story. Did you know? Everything's a story. It's comical. It's a divine comedy. Really, think about it. Every thought you think, the mind constructs. The mind is a builder. It takes every thought you think and creates a story. Think about how creative we are. If you don't think you're artistic or have a creative bone in your body, just listen to your mind. It's creative and concocting, building stories. And our lives are stories upon stories, telling stories about stories. So if you've listened and you've tuned into me before, I talk about belief systems. BS. Because they are. Our dogma becomes our greatest vice. That in all of our lives, we've got the biggest addiction to our stories. Don't ever tell anybody who's in the thick of their shit. You know, if you listen to me long enough, I'm over here telling you we're a bunch of monkeys flinging our shit at one another. We have no clue how to communicate effectively. So we just concoct stories and just throw it at other people. It's called projection. Until we really reclaim and take personal accountability and responsibility for our stories, the mind, the 𝐕𝒐𝒂𝒌, the mind virus. That's why I started with the breath, because when it comes down to it, the breath is spirit, it is life. Every breath you take is a gift, and it doesn't require your attention to it. But the more mindful you are of your breath, the more present you become. So in essence, your breath is what brings you back to your power, to your true essence of self. Because in the moment you take breaths, deep breaths, and you're conscious of it, you become tuned in, tapped into your five senses, and you start to notice things are heightened. Just with the simple breath. You smell things, you taste things, you feel things, you sense things, you heighten your senses. And the biggest one is that you start to become aware of your thoughts and the stories that your mind will try to tell on you, about you, to you, convince you of. It's so clever. Your mind is exceptionally cunning. It will convince you of all sorts of things. Hi that way, how are you? And so in the mindfulness, in the practice of just slowing down, because that's where we all come back to self, is just in the realization of, wow, maybe I got a little out of hand and I was running away on myself. I was trying to escape. Didn't want to feel. But in the moment, that's where all your power lies, is in your presence. That's why it's the gift of the now. So when you're breathing into the moment and you start to tap into your senses and you start to calm yourself and claim yourself, as we say, you become more attuned to the tune that's singing through your head. It's like a broken record sometimes, right? We are musicians. This body temple, greatest story ever told, this body temple, it's an instrument. It's up to you to tune it up and tune into it, to literally harmonize to the frequencies, your heart and soul in alignment that attracts, that we play chords. You know, it strikes a nerve, it strikes a chord. The languaging is there for a reason. If you really tune in, you listen, you will hear the hum of the universe. You will hear the sound of your heart song, that each of us has a song. And when we can hear it for ourselves, open-hearted, heart coherence opens hearts. Open hearts open other hearts. Closed hearts close other hearts. So the heart is a battery. And it's what fuels us. That is where everything comes from. Like, how could you dismiss the importance of your own heart? You know, you can sense, you can feel when people are more heart opened. You feel aligned, you feel safe, you feel in their presence, they uplift you. They awaken something in you. They activate you. And sometimes they activate you one way or the other. Polarity happens, right? But you always notice how a person makes you feel when you're around them, whether they uplift you or you feel them heavy. That in itself is you tuning into your inner guidance system, your being, yourself, your body. Your body's a tattletale. It's always telling on the mind. And when you feel icky, sticky, imbalanced, all that stuff, just pay attention to the thoughts, because it's a reaction to the mind or your environment. But see, even the environment triggers the mind. And that's where it all comes from. Like everything we're experiencing is based on a story. A trigger is an unresolved wound that you have not yet addressed or made whole. It is still like the inner child feeling neglected, suppressed, so it expresses itself. So just like the ball that you kind of push under the water, every time it comes up, it's like, please pay attention to me. Like that is your inner child giving you a clue of the neglect of you. So when we have unhealed wounds, we have traumas. Really, those triggers are gifts. They are ways of getting your attention that until you address it, it will express it because you've suppressed it. I spoke about this on my last video. We are here to really tune up this instrument, to attune our hearts and coherence, expand our magnetic field, that we affect the collective consciousness, as I was saying, that a thought you think, others feel. And if you raise your vibration, you raise your frequencies, your frequent keys are the ciphers that unlock the keys for others. That we literally are in a collective collaboration. This dropped into me, I think 3 years ago. I was having a great mushroom trip and I was like, oh, sheesh, I see how this works. The message I got was, we're doing this together. Whether you're conscious of it or not, you're contributing. And that's special. Like, we don't need technology, believe it or not. And what really made me smile this past week was just listening to some podcasts or people that I every once in a while, I'll throw on astrology forecasts because I like to hear what I'm sensing explained to me, like the weather forecast of astrology. Been following it enough. I dabble in it, but I'm definitely no expert. I'm kind of like that person who dabbles in a little bit of everything. You know, they say a jack of all trades, master of none. I feel like I've mastered a lot, though. What was really sweet this week, though, and the reason I brought that up was in several cases, I was hearing things I've been saying for years out of someone else's mouth. Now, when you are so good, you're good with yourself, you're not in your ego, you're solid, and you know this is a collective collaboration, then you also know that you don't own anything. Though it's nice if you heard something somewhere that you reference and give the source and say, you know, I give credit to so-and-so because this is where I got this. This is the information that I heard from this person and this is how it affected me. And it influenced me in a way that it woke me up to what I'm sharing. Just using that as a general term. Give credit where credit is due, as we would say. But there was no way these people, not that I'm aware of, were watching my videos over the years, let alone somebody I even knew. So interestingly, when I was listening, I was having my own deja vu. Like, I swear, I've been saying this for a long time. It's really nice to hear someone else saying it. And my ego could easily interpret that as, how did they get that information? They're stealing my, this is what influencers do. There's a lot of influencers out there that steal other people's work and they push it off as their own. And then you've got people who get upset because somebody's stealing their stuff and they recognize that. Again, it's all distraction. It's all noise. Can you really look at the message though? Again, if it's a collective collaboration and we're all tuned into the same stream of consciousness, it means that other people are hearing what you're thinking. And if it's coming out of their mouth, to me, you're affecting the vibration and the energies of others. That's powerful. That across all of social media, I may have lost 2 Facebook accounts and an Instagram account, TikTok. But guess what? My message, it still gets out there. That if I don't have a huge audience, it doesn't mean it has to come through me. And that's a gift. I shared this with someone earlier today and I was like, wow. My ego's like going, you know what? I'm okay. It's not mine to own because it belongs to the collective. That my message will get out there. Sometimes it may be on the tongues of others. So I know how powerful I am, that I can activate people through the collective. That if I'm speaking it and thinking it, then it's also getting out there and people are receiving it like a channel, like a download. That's more powerful than any social media reach I'll ever get. In my book, that's a better goal to have, to affect people by your energy, your frequency, unlocking keys. Because that's what we're here for, is to activate one another. And if anything from my legacy, I want to just activate you with my presence, that my essence sparks within you, your essence, that I unlock your codes to your greatness. That what I speak reawakens you, enlivens you. Every cell of your being goes, yeah, fuck yeah. You're here to live abundantly. Don't even let the mind try to trick you out of that with a story. So we are energy, we are sound, we are frequency, vibration. Again, you know, what was it Nikola Tesla said? If you want to know the secrets to the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. What do you think this body is? It's a musical instrument that when you make and you attune, like you got to tune it up. If you don't take care of the temple, how are you going to get your message across? How are you going to connect with people? If you don't open your heart and sing its praises, then how are you going to affect people in the world? It's an inside job, really, literally. Yeah. And we are all art, because the heart has art in it. And that's love. Love is creation. You may not see something as art, but that doesn't mean it isn't art or it isn't creative. And everybody has their expression, because that is art, is your unique expression, the imprint you leave on the world. So even with the collective consciousness, you know, you can, you know, look at social media and you can look around at all the craziness and you can let it influence you. You can let it make you feel inspired, empowered, maybe even heavy, overwhelmed, whatever. But it's a choice, and it's a story that you tell yourself. So I can tell all sorts of stories. I'm really good. I'm a great storyteller. I know better storytellers than myself, but I know my story and I can share that and express from my experience what has made me what has really influenced me the most and made me the person I am. So let's go back to the mystery, my story. I was reflecting on this because the stories we tell are a reflection of where we're at in our journeys. Every time you tell a story, you are re-experiencing a memory, an imprint. The point of origin, we'll say. The story revolves around a time in your life when you speak on terms of memory. And no matter who was involved at that time, you all have a different account of that story. And then there's the single story that is neutral with no filters or motions or any type of colors added to it, right? Because we get excited, we get upset based on our own emotional maturity, our ability to handle our internals that actually reflect in our externals. So you tell a story, and every time you tell a story about your story, you're reliving it in the moment, but only as you are in the moment you're telling it. You will never re-experience that story like you did at that time when it first initially happened. So as you tell the story throughout the course of your life, the story does change because you change. So as you're telling the story about yourself, you're also showing how much you've changed by the way you tell the story. How much attachment is there? How much is healed, whole, fragmented still? The attachment and the significance, the influence, it's all in the story. And then you start to drop off details because you can only ever tell a story from the last time you told it, meaning chances are you don't always remember the story the way it was. Because again, you change, so the story changes. How many times do you write in a journal something and then you read over it and you go, wow, I actually remember when I wrote that, what I was feeling. Or another time when you read something, you're like, wow, I don't remember that. It's the impact, the impression that it makes upon you that makes the story so significant to you. Because again, we're reliving the story in the moment we tell it, colored and filtered through our lenses of our current reality. And in our current reality, not of the time when the story originated, there's a huge change that has occurred. It is you. It is time. It is growth. It is maturity. It's awareness. It's more experience to compare and contrast that story with. Like, wow, I'm a totally different person now. I would have done things differently. It's so easy to say in hindsight, isn't it? How many of us do that? Like, I would totally do that different now. No, you probably wouldn't, because you had different information to support you then, and now you have something else. You're a different person altogether. So easy to say in hindsight, oh, I wish I'd done that differently. I would hope not, because you wouldn't be where you're at now. There was something along the way that gave you the awareness now to recognize what you wish you had done differently. In hindsight, it's always easier to say that, but to have done it and to be there, totally different. So as time goes on, that's where it gets interesting. You will tell the story time and time again, but it will never be the same story because you will never be the same person that told it or was it to begin with. Especially when it initially occurred and you experienced it. You are a completely different person. So again, the memory left an imprint, but that was only made at that time. And we outgrow even our memories, and we become completely different people. That's why you feel like a different person altogether, or that you lived many lives. If you're like me, I look back at my lives, not just one. I mean, this is one physical human existence, and I'm like, I feel like a cat of many lives in this one. You know, I can look at where I lived here and there, and like, wow, who was that person? Where is she? Wow, that's kind of cool, right? The experiences that we live. Your story will begin to fade as you're becoming more illuminated, until the story is no longer relevant and we stop telling it. So imagine that. Your story will begin to fade because it no longer has the significance. The imprint is not as impactful, that you realize, wow, that was just a story. And it is, it's all a story, the greatest story ever told. You'll tell many a story until it fades, until it no longer stands out so much because other stories take their place. And until the story is no longer relevant, you will keep on telling it. But when it fades, you will be a completely different person, and it will no longer be something that triggers you. Because a lot of our stories are really the way things were. And remember that movie? An old Robert Redford movie with Barbara Streisand, right? The Way Things Were. Isn't that the name of that movie? When you look at old movies, sometimes you realize, boy, that didn't look healthy. Like, then you look at your life the same way. But the story that you told sounded so amazing. But even you, as you grew, were like, it wasn't as good as I thought it was. See what I mean by the way it fades? And it loses its significance because you recognize in your maturing that you're more illuminated now to see past. Again, you would have done it differently with the knowledge you have now that you didn't have then. Yeah. There is only one story told from different angles. Very true. Hi, Cheryl Ann. Good to see you, lady. I haven't seen you in a while. So the greatest story ever told, my story, the mystery. There's no coincidence. You can take a language, and the more tapped in, tuned in you are to your musical instrument, you start to resonate and recognize languaging, the casting of the spells with the words that we tell our stories with. It's so important to choose your words wisely, because you literally cast your own spell in your life. And I was having a really deep conversation with my sister last night, and lovingly expressing some things that I have observed over the years, and acknowledging that, you know, if you keep complaining about something, the way people are behaving around you, they're still behaving the way they are. Did you ever stop to think that maybe you needed to change something to affect a different change out of them? The art of seduction, the art of finessing, reminding people, seducing them into this, you know, languaging and communication, flirting. People have forgotten how to communicate effectively with one another, how to spark and get something out of someone, you know what I mean? The masculine and the feminine, so often in relationships with men and women, I'm just, because that's the only experience I know, it's so easy for women to say, he just doesn't get it, you know, and to sound like the martyr, right? And then, especially with women who have children, and this emasculation of them, you know, of their partners, like, you have children now. Nobody said you needed to parent your partner. And in fact, that's so demoralizing. And you didn't get in that relationship to be their parent. So when you get frustrated over here, you don't do that over there. Like, parenting should be two people treating each other with respect. And as women, when you start to tell a man what to do, that's a toxic masculine that you're exhibiting. And again, it's all about the art of seduction and finessing the way you speak to your partner. Like, softening into your feminine and using your softness to inspire him to support and want to embrace and protect you. That is the masculine and the feminine natural, like, dance. It's like learning to date all over again. How did you seduce your man in a way that made you feel, you know, desired, just like you made him feel empowered and strong, like virile? Like, there's a dance there, and it's been so lost. I know, I'm single, I'm dating, and I'm like, I'm here, I'm open and ready and willing to accept a man who knows how to take charge and lead. But I also know there's an aspect of me being in the feminine that has to finesse as well, but not take the lead. Because there is still this desire for me, for a man to take charge. If he doesn't lead first, he's not for me. Because I need to feel safe that he's in his power and his strength. But here's the thing about men and women. Again, we've lost that art of seduction and finesse. Back in the day, a woman with a handkerchief. Oops, I dropped my, you know, and she gives him the eye. She gives him permission. She's exhibiting a way to show him, I'm interested. Now it's up to the man to take that opportunity to demonstrate, is he interested? She's giving you a clue. She's doing it pretty subtly or profoundly, right? And in some cases, you know, you see that with women and men, but I mean, we don't want to overpowerly, you know, just, I want you. Like, it's a balance. It's not a desperation. It's not this game of like, I want you. No. We need to tone it down and just, again, finesse impress, seduce, introduce. Communication styles have really just gone downhill. And I'm a writer. I speak. Like, for me, with having grown up with such an amazing mother, everything is about what you say. Like, say what you mean what you say. Walk your talk. Let your actions be in alignment. Because if they don't synchronize, they're out of alignment, you're not in mine. And so this conversation I was having explicitly with this, I said, we have to also take personal responsibility and not try to play the martyr that everybody else is. That's a projection. It's too easy. It's lazy. And it's a toxic part of a lot of people, and masculine and feminine. This idea that, well, they don't do what I need. And I'll tell you right now, I heard this with my mom growing up. I witnessed my mom and these old paradigms, these old things of saying, like, nobody ever helps me when I need help. I have to do it all. But I also knew her demoting statements under the surface of, if I accept help from somebody, they're going to want something that I may not want to give. And when you've been abused in your life, sexually abused, traumatized, there's a lot more guarding going on. Like, I want to accept help, but I want to feel safe about it. And someone has to prove to me that I can trust them to not take advantage of me, because I've had that happen to me so long. And I experienced this. I speak from this as experience. I witnessed it with my mother and how she would say, well, nobody's around to help me. But I also, as her daughter, witnessed times when people would offer to help her all the time, and she wouldn't accept it because she didn't know how to accept it. Number one, sometimes it's hard to accept help. Even when you know you want it, you're so blind to it because of that trauma that says, if I accept help, someone's going to take advantage of me because it's happened before in the past. And that's, again, where I go back to and why we're talking about this tonight. This is about unlocking the stories, the mystery, my story. What is really my story that keeps me back, held back? What is my trauma story? What is my guard? Why? What happened to you? What is that story you keep telling yourself? And so in this expression of, explaining that, I remember when mom was unable to receive help, and I had a conversation with her. I remember I was in the car. I know exactly where I was, and I triggered her too, because she thinks she hung up on me. But there was a point when I said, listen, Mom, I know we remember things differently. Ultimately, I want you to know that my story as your daughter is, I witnessed you wanting help, desperately wanting help, but unable to graciously receive it very often, because I could see that you didn't want to be taken advantage of. So you would deny opportunities given to you because of your fear. And so when we operate from this place of fear, what do? We create this energy, this vibration that attracts more situations that offer more fear for us to capitulate, to perpetrate, to penetrate, to infiltrate. So if you're coming from a place of a closed down heart, in fear, in protection, what do you think you're going to attract to you? More of that, more experiences that will mirror that energy vibration. And I am the first one to tell you that over the course of my life, when I ask for help, that means I freaking need it. I'm not trying to be weak. In fact, that's my strength, is knowing when I need help. And there was that story that I used to tell, that as I needed help, same thing with my mom, there was nobody there. And after having my breast implants removed last year and losing my dog, I will be honest, I heard a lot of crickets when I really needed help the most. And that was last year when I realized my circle was small, because I gave more than I allowed myself to receive. And so many people I know assume that she's tough, she's strong, she can take care of herself. I don't know why people think that single people have it better than the people with partners. At least from my perspective, even if you're miserable in your partnership, you actually do have more help. Just saying. You have kids, you got a leg up there too. So you got helpers. It's up to you to teach them how to help. I know if I had little ones running around, I'd be training them, listen, your mom needs help. Because that's how I was with my mom. Like anytime I could help, I was a helper. I still remember what it was like to be a child. I still have that naivete and that innocence. I still look at people, I see your soul's potential. But over the years, I've learned I have to also discern if you're in alignment with that or not. So I can be your tough love mama and tell you, I see your soul's potential. I see you in there. But sometimes my tough love might be, got to call your ass out because you're not walking the talk and your alignment is off. Your integrity is lacking. Like, I'm that friend. I would rather see you thriving than in survival mode, desperation, being outside of your integrity. Because I'm the authenticity, accountability buddy that everybody is like, fuck, she sees through me. And I know that. I know people see me and they're like, uh-oh. There was a portion of my life, so many people were like, she's harsh. Not really. If you get to know me, I'm really I'm a softie. I'm a lioness, big heart. Like if you're in my circle, you will find me to be the most loyal friend you'll ever have, the person you can turn to. But the moment you cross me, I won't even be able to look you in the eye. That's just something that ever since I was a little girl, if I can see through you, I will look you in the eye. I will look you dead in the eye and you will feel it. Like I see you. And it's not because I like to see everybody succeed and happy. I mean, my heart is here to help, to serve. I am not that person who wants to seek revenge or vindication. Screw that. I don't have time for wasting time. And that's a time waster in my book. I've superseded that in my life. That no matter what has happened to me in my past, yeah, things sting. Yeah, it fucking hurts. It sucks when you've been lied to, taken advantage of, stolen from, all the stuff. Maybe I did that in other lives. Maybe I wasn't so good to those people. I don't know. But it makes me a more sensitive individual about my needs as well as others, because when it hurts me, I don't want anybody else to feel that way. My genuine heart says, and there's a martyr in there, right? I will admit that it's like, I would rather experience the suffering and teach from that place to help others avoid it if they are willing and open to receiving it. That even if you have suffered in your life and you think, she's got it good, trust me, I have many a story. Again, the mystery, my story. We all have stories. And like we say, right, Cheryl, we all keep on rising now, right? The deeper I dive, the higher I rise. If you think I look good now, you wait. You ain't seen the half of it. Most people have no clue about me, and I'm okay with that. Because I love to surprise and delight people and catch them off guard. It's like when I was first in the community around the yoga and the spiritual stuff, it's like, and then I went to teach, and every once in a while I have someone in a class and they're like, they just assume until I say something like, oh yeah, when I was in the military, such and such. You were in the military? Like, that one always blows people away. And I don't bring it up very often. And when I do, every once in a while, it's like, it's very interesting to see the way people look at me. Because I don't just come from this airy-fairy environment. I have a whole life experience behind me, like a lot of life experience. And so again, the mystery of my story is that every story is a story about a story. And you can always change your story. Again, choices bring changes. That's your superpower. You get to choose how you tell your story and whether you are victorious. Are you the star of your main show? Are you the hello? You can be whoever and whatever you want. So if you're not happy with your story in your life, you get a get free card. Hello, here's your card. Here's your permission from me to you. No matter what's going on in your life, you can change that. It's only a choice away. It's only letters and words constructed by the mind. If you're telling a story that you're not so happy with, here's the first check with yourself. Because guess what? Our stories are a great addiction. So many people play the victim, the martyr, because their story gets them things. That's what, when you start seeing people do that, you start to see the addiction to the drama, the trauma, the story. Why? Because it satisfies at least 3 of the basic human needs. So to satisfy those needs, it means you're getting your needs met. Doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're happy. It's a vicious cycle. That's what addiction is. It's the numbing out to the root cause of why you tell the story. Have you really truly addressed what your story is? Is it true? Is it kind? Is it relevant? The story you tell, and you know it so well, is the spell you keep on casting upon yourself. So if all you want to do is tell someone about all your sob stories, remember what I said in the beginning. Every time you tell a story, you're experiencing that story over and over again. Every cell of your being is repeatedly going, oh, vibratory like expansion. Telling the story is creating the vibration that attracts more of that to you. So make sure you're telling a story you want to be true, that is true to you and serving you. Because when people are telling these victimhood stories, 9 times out of 10, it's because somehow it's serving them. They're being enabled. They're gaining some form of affection, connection with others. You just go to a bar. And I say this because I lived in Naples, Italy, and I lived right down the street from the baretti where everybody socialized. And, you know, just like here in the United States, happy hour, you get all the locals around, and there's a ritual around. Let's go have an aperitivo, and let's you know, unwind before we go have some dinner. And when you're telling your stories, then you start to notice. You do this enough, by the way. I know. I lived in Naples long enough to recognize who the barflies were, to start to see and hear the stories they told, and how those stories served them. Men picking up on women, women picking up on men, and the cycle again and again. Because their stories were just to satisfy them temporarily, but they were self-perpetuating and not serving. And I myself had my stories. I was in a bad relationship. I just have to admit I'm a Leo. So there was, you know, I used to think when I was younger, having witnessed my parents, the way they fought, I just thought it was passion, the yelling. You know, when we're yelling, it's because our hearts are not connected. They're not coherent. That the yelling is this distance I'm trying to get you to hear me because you can't see me and feel me, and I can't feel you. And the more you yell, the more you actually shut yourself down and the other too. But I didn't know that then. I just thought that was part of the passion of a relationship, especially in Latin families. And, you know, and yelling means you care. When you get angry, it shows you care. You're proving, hey, I care. I'm upset. Don't you see how much I care? Don't you see that I love you that much, that I'm pissed off at you? That yelling doesn't necessarily prove anything. Is it really passion, or is that just a story? So this is the joke. Me and my girlfriend, we one day just went out to the beach and we were just talking, and I said, story. And after a while, the joke just kept on being, there's another story. And there's a story about a story. And we just started laughing, because that's the divine comedy. In the awareness that everything's just a story, it lightens up the seriousness of the situation. It makes you humble enough to go, fuck, I have to check myself, because the story is about myself and I'm the one telling it. So whether you have traumas or not, which we all do, but it's dependent upon the story you tell of which one is ruling you. Is your story empowering, or is it disempowering? Are you the victim or the victor? Are you happy? Stories are amazing. I mean, that's how we connect. That's how we manipulate, deceive, infiltrate. These are real life things, like what's going on in the world. Like, you can look at the news, you can, again, they're all stories, but do you know the truth? How easily are you influenced by stories? And so let me go back to the Boretti and the barfly thing. You listen to enough people, you hang out in a bar for a couple weeks, you see, this is an old Italian way of saying, I got an eye on you, I can see things, right? The gesticulations I learned in Naples, come on, I got some good ones. And like, yeah, I love the old languages. Like the gesticulations are the best. Naples, I love you. Non ma passa manca pacapa. That was one of my favorite Neapolitan sayings. And it basically is like saying, it doesn't even floss between my ears. Like, whatever you say doesn't affect me, doesn't touch me. It just doesn't even go in between my ears. It's like saying it doesn't. Yeah, you get it? Non ma passa manca pacapa. It doesn't even pass through my head. I know, right, Cheryl Ann? So you hang out in a bar long enough, you start to see the barflies, the alcoholics, all the addiction, because that's what that breeds. It really is all about addiction. And it's humbling, because when you numb the pain, you numb the joy. And so you're chasing the high because of the numbness. And so you go into these environments and you can start to read the room. And, you know, it's great. It's sad to hear someone's story, but how often are they challenged in that story? Because they've said it enough times that it has served them, and it continues to serve them, to hold them in that pattern, that addictive cycle. And it often requires something major to disrupt it. And even for myself, I was involved with an alcoholic, and you know, you don't even realize you're in it until you recognize it in yourself. There was so much drama in that relationship. I was unhappy with my work. I was unhappy with my body. I was having extreme, like, when I say my body was it has been my biggest teacher, this was another one that, because of my work accommodations and my physical debilitations at the time, chronic pain, I literally hit my head and it completely messed up with my cervical spine. It hurt, like fibromyalgia, whatever you want to call it, nerve sensations and pain, trying to go to work, driving a Mini Cooper on cobblestone, roads and all that. I mean, like, I was miserable. So self-soothing medication and Motrin, right? I say medication. Motrin was the most I took, and then I took the gabapentin, which is like a nerve dulling medication with narcotic-like effects, even though it's non-narcotic. But I saw how that affected me, and I didn't like that. I never have been a big pharmaceutical person for myself, and I had to wean myself off of that. And I went to several acupuncture appointments to try to get my neck so I could turn it and move. I had to sleep on my right side. I couldn't sleep on my left side for like 8 months. It was miserable. And so I'm in this environment where I'm miserable and I'm attracting more misery and more drama and more trauma. And can't you see how he's behaving and how it affects me? Wow. Like looking back and telling that story, I'm like embarrassed, because even my behavior was a reaction to someone else's actions that were nothing to do with me. That was just their addictive cycle. And I couldn't get them out of it. I was more upset because I wanted them to be something they weren't. And it was the same for myself. I wanted to be something else. So it's interesting. Again, we go back to these stories we tell, but if you get to know yourself well enough, you'll also be able to read and see through other people's stories. Because when you own your entire self and you become whole and you're in tune with your own heart and soul song, like you will also affect and uplift others. And as I was started out this whole live stream that I was explaining that the collective consciousness is a collective collaboration in communication from the subtle to the unsubtle, like you and me communicating here. Or you go to bed tonight and having a dream and some wisdom has dropped into you, thoughts channel through you. People like to say entities and all of these channeled masters and everything else. And I'm over here to say it's a collective consciousness. And there is no higher being. It is all of us. It's a collective collaboration that we are all contributing to. So when people say they're channeling something out of some other planet, some other entity, I'm over here going, it's all coming from the same source. The fact that you put a name on it, okay, you're giving it a story, you're giving it significance. I'm over here to say, can we simplify our stories a little bit more? Because interestingly enough, I find some people are more attracted to the story if it has a flashy name. See how easily influenced people are? If you call it Archangel Michael or Gabriel or Saint Germain, which is what my bracelet is, you know, like, and I'm speaking from my own personal experience. Oh, your ears perk up. You're like, oh, Saint Michael. Oh, yes, I relate to that. Let's call ourselves out on some of this, because there's a lot of BS in our stories. There's a lot of false idolatry that if you say you belong to a certain religion or you belong to a certain group, all of a sudden you're finding your ways to connect to people. If you took all the labels, all the stories, throw them out the window, now what you got? It's just like even in relationships, you know, the way of dating is backwards. You know, people jump in bed and then they don't even know the person they're with. And then they wonder, why did they change? Well, because you never got to know them to begin with. You didn't take the time, the effort, and the energy that a true relationship requires. It's the same thing with yourself. It's no different. Most people don't realize that you, in your interactions relating to another, is how you learn about yourself and how you relate to you. We cannot experience ourselves by ourselves. Life is about relationships. Humans in unity, a common unity, community. We humans are here to interact and engage with one another. And in doing so, we become each other's witnesses, our mirrors, accountability. Hello, I see you. I see you. I see me in you. You see me as you. And everything, whether you bless it or curse it, comes right back to you. So again, with the stories, every time you point a finger out, telling a story about someone else, that's a boomerang, baby, and you got a loaded gun. It's your past, your present, or your future. That story is your story. You telling some story about someone else is a reflection of you, because it's all projection. It's all mirrors. Everything we're experiencing is ourselves. I know this is a deep subject. I mean, I can go on and on and on about it's just a story. What story are you clinging to? Do you know why? And when you can dive into those questions, most people don't want someone else to tell them what they see in them, because there's that fear. Do you really see me? Do you see my pain, even though I'm putting on a happy face? That's humbling when you have somebody who can see all of you, even though you may be putting on a mask or a show. Because most people are afraid to address what they suppress. But again, your shit shows, because your body will express everything you suppress. You may try to hide it, but see, that's the problem. The more you hide something, the more it shows. And it's running the show. And why your life becomes a shit show. Humility, people. Kindness. And it has to slow down in you for you. We are at a time in the world, and I've heard this a few times because I've known this for several years. The things that I've received as messages, the deep pains of humanity. This had all been coming to surface for a very long time. 2020 was crystal clear vision of what was really happening, right? And that we were crossing the tipping scales, many people. I mean, even tonight coming back from the beach, I encountered a couple people visiting from Iowa, a man who works on he repairs the wind turbines. That was an interesting conversation. And the people that I met walking off the beach, older than myself, and talking about the strange weather that was occurring because we had to leave the beach. This storm came in, and the entire time I was staying in the water because it was so nice. I didn't want to get out of the water. My inner child was like, but I don't want to get out. It feels so warm. It was cold outside the water. And we watched the storm come in from all these different angles. It was bizarre. It was so crazy to witness it. And it was beautiful, and it was a creation. It was art in whatever form, right? It doesn't really matter if it's man-made or it's real in nature. It's still something to behold and appreciate, you know, the capacity that no matter what else is going on in the world, you have to still be in awe of the capability of man to do what it does. And I love to bring it up, but isn't it interesting? I believe religion was designed for control, that man was made in God's image. But yet, isn't it ironic that the man tries to make God in his image? This pinnacle time that we are here to be alive is amazing. I just want to say thank you to the high. I am so grateful I chose to come here and fly and be a part of all this. Because to me, this is exciting. And when I've gotten good with myself, I'm like, I'm ready to rock and roll. This is what I came here for. It may sound crazy to some people, but I see the opportunities. This is like new. This is next level. And when I say that, nobody has an answer for how it's going to look or feel or anything. You know why? Because we've never been here before. Humanity as a whole gets to create this next stage. We all have a part to play, a role to play. We all get a say. Think about that. You know why I'm talking about our story, right? My story, mystery, because it's not about carrying forth the legacy of the past or the generational curses. We're here to clear that shit and do some new shit. How's that sound? Anybody here resonate with this? Because this is the message I've been getting. And it's loud and clear to me because I was having this conversation in the background the past couple of days about how our ancestors don't want us to wallow in their stuff, their unresolved and unhealed and passed on generational stuff. Like, remember what we say, you bless yourself when you bless others. You curse yourself when you curse others. Condemning someone other than yourself just brings you down to their level. We need to learn to rise above and lift others up to our level, right? We're not here to put anyone down. And as much as people don't realize it, I know this is the hardest one. I know. You're not going to want to hear this. A lot of people want to hear it. All the forces, all the shit that you don't like, and those horrible people, they've been doing this because that's all they know. Isn't that sad? They're so predictable. I actually have more compassion because I see how shallow and heartless it is. Because they're so, they really believe they're doing the right thing. And nobody's ever called them out on it, and that's the problem. See what happens when you coddle a child, when you overprotect it and tell them they're the best at everything? You never actually give them the opportunity to fail or to let other people point out that maybe they have some shortcomings, because we all got them. All our shit shows, whether you like it or not. You're not a perfect person in this person's eye, but you might be in theirs. And your mother's going to love you no matter what. She's going to defend you to the death. He was such a good boy. She was such a good girl. I don't know what happened. When it comes down to it, balance, neutrality, choosing this or that as the trap because that keeps you on that pendulum swinging, keeps you fragmented. And if you're only seeing one half of the whole, that means you're not whole. It means you're missing the other half. It means you're blinded by what you do see from what still exists in the polarity. Duality, duplicity. This world operates in constructs of comparison. Contrast is how we recognize the imbalance. So when you think there's all this evil in the world, Lucifer illuminates, you need the dark to let the light out, and the light needs the dark. They're hand in hand, the yin and the yang. It's a tough one for anybody to wrap their head around or even wrap their arms around. I don't want to touch that. And the heart shuts. I really believe that's a big part of this. And it's the part that's gonna be the hardest for most. Because isn't it interesting? You could be the most loving person, but there may be one thing that you seek justice for, that you, damned if I have my way, I will see this to my death. You're so loyal to a cause. No, and I get this. I'm coming from abuse. When you've been violated, you're hyper aware. You see things as they are. You really get it. You're gonna see it where others are like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, it's because you haven't experienced it. Or if you have, you're not tuned into the full expression of it because you've numbed it out. You've suppressed it. And denial does not make it go away, by the way. It actually makes it show up more and more, which is why we're seeing what we're seeing. because of the violations, the traumas that so many have experienced, the humiliation, the demoralization, the literally like energetic castration, emasculation, like really, we're in such a state of like denial of it for ourselves. We haven't felt it fully. We haven't expressed it. We haven't claimed our wholeness, that it's easier to see it around us, and it triggers us and upsets us because we haven't resolved it for us. It will keep on showing up out in the world until we ourselves feel it fully and let it reveal itself, until we feel whole with it again. Reclaiming those aspects of ourselves that we feel ashamed of and guilted. You know, oh my gosh, you know, this happened to me. I would never want anybody to see me in that state. But wait a minute, you're way past that. Nobody can do anything to you or take you from you. So we see all this stuff. Again, my story, the mystery. How am I going to heal the world if I can't heal myself? That is where it starts, is we all have to go back to self. And the stories we tell. And how are we going to change? Because our legacy is in the story, right? It's in the strength and the resilience. You're still here. You have a valid story of valor, of victory. And still I rise, the phoenix from the ashes. The deeper you're willing to dive, the higher you will rise. And that's a given. It may not feel like it sometimes when you are down in the trenches. But just looking at your past, looking at your stories and your life, there's always an example of where you've overcome adversity. You've come back stronger, maybe not right away, but you did it anyway. And so what's the story? What's your success? What do you define as success? I mean, this is like a deep dive. You can go deeper into this one. But ultimately, it's the stories we choose with the words that we speak. And it's so, so important. I can never say this enough, that the languaging, the words that you choose have a vibration, have an energetic imprint, and that you carry that within you. Every cell of your being holds the memory of your stories that you keep on telling. Which is why speaking out affirmations and getting into a physiological state that raises your vibration is, you know, the power stance, different things like that. Like when I did Date with Destiny with Anthony Robbins back in 2008, it was about getting out of the story and into the body, because the body is the real truth teller. And so you work with the body to affect the mind. You can't use the mind to affect itself. Although the mind is very clever and it will convince you, it is so cunning, that here's the story. It's just a story. But is it true? And you get to challenge it. But it's up to you, because you actually have to be accountable to yourself. That's the toughie. That's why we say it's having an accountability partner, having a mentor, a coach, being part of a group of people that are willing to like go, I saw that, I'm calling you out on it. I'm going to hold you accountable. It's important to have that type of people, those people in your circle, because if you're unwilling to hear it, you need different perspectives, because that's what helps us grow. To challenge our own belief system, our bullshit, our BS, belief system, bullshit. Hey, you know, it's the same thing. It's all a story. It just, the interesting thing is that belief systems become our dogma. And that is like the foundation of your physical body is the spine. Do you have a rigid spine, or do you have a flexible, fluid movement in your body? Your body will tell on the mind. It'll tell you, like, I got a little bit too much dogma. My BS is a little stronger than I like it to be. I need to kind of lighten up. Stop throwing my shit at people. Truth comes from feeling, and it is revealing in what is still unhealed. It's like, I used to say you have to feel it to heal it. But over the years, what I've realized is feeling is in itself healing, but the feeling is revealing. And we need to honor the way people feel and not, this was the conversation I had last night. I know it's hard when you're going through something and you don't want to hear what everybody else is going through. It's not that anybody's situation is worse or better than yours. But in order to be heard and to be held, you also have to be willing to do the same for others, and also recognize that sometimes your process is going to affect other people too, in a way that they will grieve and also feel pain as a result of your pain. And they need to be honored in that pain too. Not, I understand where you're coming from, but I'm still over here in pain too. Like, we're all really processing, and we have a story that we're being challenged by and we're working through. Everybody's got a different love language, and that really helps to understand that when that's happening, especially in your familial environment, you know, your family. They affect us the most, whether you're close or you're not, because those are the people that have seen you the most throughout the course of your life. And so in the case of family, a lot of times we all hold this ideology or this belief around our other siblings or our parents and how they are. And we have this story, right? Again, it's all stories. It's like saying, you know, well, you know, Dad, he's always like that. Actually, I've learned a lot more about my dad. And I've recognized, you know, the softness, the tenderness, the sensitivity in my own dad that I don't think that he's been honored enough for. He was a single only child, and my grandmother was Portuguese. Nobody will ever be better or good enough for you or better than your mother. Your mother knows best. Like, you hear that enough, that's disempowering. Like, I have a huge respect and appreciation and understanding around generations of disempowerment by saying things like that. It's like teaching your child not to trust themselves. Your mother knows best. Nobody will ever be good enough for you. Nobody will ever love you as much as your mother. When you continually hear that like a broken record, that becomes a story that disempowers and teaches you not to trust yourself and to place that trust outside of yourself. That's just a small example of how culturally, generationally, we have the stories that haven't necessarily been confronted and acknowledged in how they affected us throughout the course of our life. And so one of the things I expressed to my sister was, you know, I had to have my own moment of dissatisfaction. Like, when I first bought my house, my dad was like, I can help you with this and I can help you with that because I've done all this renovation, right? And then when it came down to it, it turned into, oh, my back, my disability, I don't have the capacity. Now, a couple things. They're all stories. But some people believe so much in their stories become their limitations. Instead of recognizing that there's a way out of your limitations, if you don't want that to be your story, you have to set new boundaries and just like remove the limitations. That's the story. I mean, if we continually say, well, I'm getting older, so, you know, I just forget things. I mean, like, that's disempowering. That's a story. You want your story to be empowering. This is the huge healing that's going on in the collective right now, is your story needs to be something that raises you, not takes you out or down. Because when you're telling the story and your body language is like, yeah. Well, again, when you tune into your body, power poses will empower you. Like literally standing in powerful positions will shift your physiology and your state of being. It will also affect your mind in the way that you feel confident and how you present yourself. Like when you lift your heart up, you've already, just in doing this, and that doesn't even have to do with power. It's just the fact that your heart gets expanded and your lungs are more open, which is going to get you more oxygen to your brain. And that's going to release all the happy hormones and things like that, right? So it's the, look at how your body is naturally designed to support you. You know, open your heart, open your arms, give someone a hug. Oxytocin, hold someone for 30 seconds, heart to heart. That changes everything. I was listening to someone talk earlier. I don't remember who I heard this saying because it's been over the past couple of days, but a reminder around how when women used to come together, they would get at least eight hugs a day. Let's just say 8. You know, maybe it was 20. We don't hug enough. Like I'm a big huggy person. My friends, normally we hug, things like that. My family's always been in huggy, you know, like we have our moments, but like, I'll latch onto my dad. I'm like, I'll hold him. And it was like, okay, that's enough. But he's so cute because he does enjoy that. And he does know he needs that. And there've been times where I was rushed and I didn't get a chance to give him a hug. And he'd be like, you didn't even give me a hug. I'm like, see, because I know he's sensitive. I see him. I know him. My heart knows his heart. When you know your heart, you will be able to tap into other people's hearts. That's important. We all need that because guess what? Hearts are instruments, chords. Ding, 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 ding. We just need to tune into our frequencies because we are unlocking each other's keys and codes. And when we spark one another, we awaken, we enliven, the whole world changes just by being in our own power, presence, heart, coherence, breath, prana, presence, essence, spirit in inspiration. Just breathe. No matter what's going on, whatever the story is, just breathe. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale the good shit. Exhale the bullshit, the BS, the belief systems. Can we all agree it's all just a story? Can we be humble enough? Because that's the divine comedy. I personally believe, and it gets comical when you start to go, oh shit, that's just a story I keep telling myself. Like, you can make fun of this because guess what? We're not here to be all like, oh, it's just a story. Fuck you. You know, what do you know? What are you talking about? You don't understand. That's your fucking ego. Been there, done that. And I call bullshit on it. Because if you don't call bullshit on your own shit, you'll be flinging your shit and it'll be a shit show for all to see. Because you put yourself on display when you don't own your shit. And I'm speaking from personal experience. Embarrassed times. I got many a story of those. Didn't you see how he behaved? Don't let him steal your joy. Lana, be happy. Who the hell are you to tell me? Like, seriously, that was some serious drama back in the day. Now I'm over here realizing my life is drama-free, except for when I want it to be. And then I have fun with it because we're here to play. And my inner child will get excited about the things that need to be playful and joyful. And, you know, I have my times of fuckery. Okay, we're all good. You want to play? I'll bring my instrument. You bring yours. We'll have a fun time at it. But it's humbling to recognize the mystery is just a story. Everything's a story. We can easily put labels. Okay, so now I was talking about that, wasn't I? Bringing up the fact that so many people want to give significance, or they're trying to do that marketing ploy of like, well, I said a buzzword, so everybody's like talking about this. So let me just use those buzzwords to attract you. Is it authentic? Does it really, really connect with you? Or are you easily being influenced? Because these are the meditation video you have in a playlist somewhere. I think it's on the Everyone. What is that? You're going to have to tell me what you're talking about there that way. We get caught up in our own shit. And when we're so deep in it, we can't see through it. Life is meant to be play. We want to connect. That's the human condition, is to connect. Our hearts naturally want to be in each other's presence, singing the praises, heart coherence, harmonizing the music. Like when we come together, we're harmonic, we're artistic, we're music together, we're playing a song. There's a reason why when in the past you hear the stories of celebration and the music that people play, you don't have to be the best singer or the best at that instrument. It's just the fact that you're willing to play, to give it your unique expression, to bring it into creation, imagination, manifestation, into form. With the stream of consciousness, whatever is up in the pool, you may take drops, you may get flooded. Sometimes we get flooded with stuff and it's like, whoa, and some people can't handle all that. But start to recognize and question yourself with the stories you tell and the ways that you connect with people. Because I remember when I was younger, how I would seek out people who had similar experiences because I was trying to make sense of it all. Like what happened to me as a child, I would somehow get into conversations with people and then just look for things that we could relate to. But it was from the trauma perspective because I was still trying to make sense of what had happened. And was it normal? Like, did someone else experience it? And like, we all go through this because this is how we get to know ourselves. That's been my journey, is in telling story and seeing how the story attracted people or it repelled people. Were they open to receiving me with my story? Or did they deny me and reject me because of my story? That's been an interesting lesson over the course of my life. Yes, and in the end, do we want to relate because of the story? Or do we want to connect because we unlock each other's frequencies and we feel? You don't have to have a story to feel. When you are in your presence, in the moment, you are in your essence. Your pure state of being is in the now, right here, right now. Thoughtless or in awareness, all your power is right here, right now. The moment the mind tries to hijack you into a thought, a story, a memory, something triggers you, it hijacks you. It takes you out of the now. It throws you into whatever that is. Anytime, every time that happens is an opportunity for you to choose. What is this story? What is it trying to teach me? What is it about it that keeps coming up for me? Everything we ever did in our whole life got us right here, right now. Yeah. And we are the oldest living descendants of our ancestors. So think about that. That's huge. We have survived the gene pool. We're proof that the lineage is still here. No matter what's happened in history, whether it's real or not, or, fabricated, or we're going to find out tomorrow that, this is all a hologram and whatever, it doesn't matter. But the reality is, it's like, it's all a story. And in the end, we will find out eventually the truth of the matter. But let's have fun with it anyway, because we have been way too wound up, too serious, caught off with the distractions of survival versus thrival, the emotions of stress, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And most people don't realize when they're in the fawn because they don't want to be rejected. Yeah. Nothing sweeter than you is creation itself. It's a true story. It's a true story. We really are blessed. And this is a period of time where we all chose to be here now. We all decided we wanted to be a part of something completely never done before, newer than ever. Like nobody has any prediction on it. Nobody can know it until it appears. Like we're all just winging it. Can we just say that? Can we just say that? Like I have a vision, I have a knowing, an inner gnosis that I've always had since I was a little girl. And over these years, I've been like, oh, it's real. I wasn't imagining it. Like I literally had a dream last night. A lot of dreams last night. But in this particular part of the dream, I was at the ocean, which probably is why I was being called to go in the ocean and get totally cleansed because my body was achy and I needed it. I was standing at the edge of this water and it was just straight up higher than me significantly. We're talking like meters. I don't know. It was massive. It was mega deep and it just stopped. It didn't come forward of me. It was just behind me. It was very interesting. But in the dream, there were these massive, massive waves and people were surfing out in it, but they weren't afraid of it. We're talking megalith waves, megalithic, super, like there are people that go out in the, like, I don't know, far out in the ocean where there's incredible waves. I mean, it's just impressive. Like everything can be seen as a risk, but a risk is something that scares the hell out of you, right? So think about life like this. So again, stories. What you may think is a risk is everyday normalcy for somebody else. Like we were talking about this in the water earlier today, and I was just getting that flashback of what I was sharing in my dream of it. What may feel like a risk to you is what someone does all the time. People are afraid to get in the ocean, but yet maybe they take a risk to do it anyway. It's the same with fear because risk is associated with fear. Are you going to face the fear anyway? Because change doesn't happen in your comfort zone. Like this is where we're at. Like you get this life and what's holding you back other than this story? There's so much more to us and so much more that I know we all in our hearts want to experience. But the most important thing we need to do is confront the story that's holding us back from doing it. I say that for myself because over the years, my stories are, well, I need help. Well, there's no excuse for that one. I know I can do it. In fact, that was a recent one that I was reminding myself. I was like, oh, wow. You know, in my past, I was very well known for being resourceful. People came to me because I always knew how to get shit done. I was the one who wrote the standard operating procedures and had the books. People were like, Lana, you got that red book that has all the information? Like I literally would do screenshots when I used to teach and document how to do system administration and engineering. I had my own system of doing it. Like I thought my procedures were better than standard operating procedures most of the times. In fact, when I worked for Northrop Grumman and I went to go train out in Woodland Hills, California, I'll never forget, the person who was the technical writer wasn't too happy because I went in and I just completely edited their documentation because I was like, oh, technically that should be bolded and that, you know what I mean? Like, because I wanted it to be streamlined and idiot proof is what I usually call it, but you can't make a mistake when you get it step by step. And that was something I prided myself on, as well as like when I was in Vicenza, Italy, the first time when I worked at the Balkan Chaos in NATO. It was so funny. This guy, Oscar, he was from Naples, and he had told me, well, we don't need the equipment, so you do whatever you want with it. So I had taken all the parts out. I literally got nicknamed the resourceful one from a Neapolitan. And that's a compliment. And I say that with like glee, but my inner child was like, because when he came to pick it up, it was cannibalized, as we'll say, because I had utilized all the parts within the equipment. He goes, what did you do to this? So he told me I could use it, so I used it. And he just, you're the resourceful one. And over the course of my life, I realized, what am I doing over here saying I need help? I'm the person people come to when they need help, and I always find solutions for them. So what's my excuse? Have you ever been faced with that in your life where you're actually realizing, oh shit, I can help everybody but myself? There's a trend in that, and there's a story behind it, always. The story is you didn't realize you needed to help yourself. The reason you were helping others was because in some ipsilogical, like psychological mindfuck, and people do it all the time, I'm just saying, that you think that if you help someone else, somehow that will help you. People do it all the time. It's this psychological idea that if I fix somebody else, somehow that will inadvertently fix all the things that I feel are wrong with me. It's why a lot of people will avoid dealing with their shit, but using others as the catalyst and the martyr of they need me, So just being an awareness that sometimes what it is you're doing for everyone else is really ultimately your lesson in needing to do it and give it to yourself. So going back to, for me, I'm very resourceful. It dawned on me this past week. I was like, look at you. You know you can do this because you've done it for other people. That was your crown, your glory, like my signature in all of my career. She gets shit done. Okay, guess what? I'm getting shit done for me now. That this past week was like, hello, Missy, you got this shit. Like, quit it. Like, I've been calling out my BS for a while now. But this, I have to tell you, I have had some magic this week, and I'm just grateful because I'm open to receiving it. And it literally is like sweet stuff. I'll share later. It's nothing you need to hear about now, but really, once you start to see through your own BS and you own that, and it no longer is ruling over and literally your driver, your story, your shit, doing, running the show, your shit show. When you are no longer allowing your shit to run the show of your shit show life, it's like, then you really shift happens. Your life becomes magic. Magic is no longer a mystery. And now you're my story. Your story becomes like, it's the inspiration. It becomes the breath. You become a living prayer. You become the person that inspires through your inspired living. And ultimately, that is really what we want our story to be. Look at me living my life example. Be inspired through my example. That if you're living from an inspired place, which is the breath within you, the spirit within you, you will unlock the codes in others. And effectively, the collective collaboration will have you to thank for uplifting the vibration of the collective consciousness. We literally don't even have to be on all these devices or social media. When you're doing the work for you, you're affecting everyone else too. And then you start to see it around you. And that's what I'm talking about. The story is magic. but it's a choosing. It's just a choice. So I think I'm getting sleepy and it's time for me to go to bed. But I appreciate all of you who tuned in and my technology hiccups. Yeah. Be very sensitive and attentive and call out your stories because it's all a story. And if you are seeing things completely coming back around in a circle, like I said earlier, if you're unhappy with the way things are in your life and your story is that people are showing up to you a certain way, well, look at how you're showing up. Are you doing the same thing over and over again? You got to look at your patterns because your behaviors, your choices, your story is telling on you. As you are creating, you are casting your spell with the story you tell. That becomes your reality. And you get to choose. But you have to be willing to call out your own BS, your belief systems and stories, because those stories either empower or disempower you. So choose your stories well. And if you don't like your story, change it. Sounds simple, but you need to become mindful of it because it's so easy to get caught up in the mind. So clever, it will convince you that the story is true when it's just illusory. From my heart to yours, thank you for entering my living room. I appreciate you. I love you. So many sweet dreams. And may this activate you in your awareness of your story. That's no longer a mystery.